What is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. After all of the distractions are now complete, the super shit down is over, and the worst Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in the history of its existence is now all behind us. We are finally on the road to WrestleMania, and things are going to get exciting, and things like Edge and Randy Orton are going to reach a fever pitch just as they're about to get going, and AJ Styles is going to give you a pretty decent promo. And I mean, it was really just something I didn't expect to hear from the Phenomenal One tonight, actually giving some meaning maybe to his unnecessary matchup with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And outside of all of that, there was all of the same WWE illogical, random, just complete trash heap TV that we are used to ingesting. And even though we know it doesn't taste good, we sit down and we watch it and we hope and we hope and we hope. And there are glimmers of hope that keep us latched on. But outside of all of that, this show sucked. And we are here to talk about it right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Now, if we're being honest, Raw was not really like a bad show. It wasn't suck-down level bad, and maybe that's because it's coming off of the heels of an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that put everybody in the world to sleep, especially the crowd in Philadelphia. The crowd tonight was a good crowd, and maybe that also helped to attribute making this show feeling a lot better than what we've been getting lately. But all of the stuff on this show, almost all of the stuff on this show, is either the same old shit or just something completely new and random. Or it's just WWE's way of doing their typical things. Well, let's give these guys a Seth Rollins versus Alistair Black match tonight, but we're gonna WWE it to death. We're gonna give it the old Vince McMahon 1-2 and just turn it into a mixed person matchup. It's going to, not mixed person, although these are mixed up personalities, a multi-man matchup that nobody gives a shit about. We started out with Alistair Black versus Seth Rollins, and it was going pretty good for the 5 minutes that it was allowed to go on, and then we ended up with the Street Profits teaming up with the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders versus Seth Rollins, the Monday Night Man Bun, and all of his disciples. And I'm trying to figure out why. Has Alistair Black's new gimmick become I'm a fucking magician now? He's the new David Copperfield of the WWE. He's like Chris fucking Angel. He's disappearing all over the place. Last night at the Elimination Chamber, he disappeared and turned into The Undertaker and then turned back into himself. And now tonight, he just disappears. Guy's a fucking magician. Fantastic. Let's go with that. Give him a little top hat. Let him come up on his coffin with the hat and a little rabbit in his hand or some shit. Be better than Eric Rowan's Spider. Rest in peace, animatronic Spider. Drew McIntyre murdered somebody's pet tonight. Now, I know it wasn't a real life spider, and I know that it was the most ridiculous thing ever in the world. But if you look at it just from that, Drew McIntyre murdered Eric Rowan's pet tonight. And I'm not mad at it, and that's a terrible thing to say if you're thinking about it, but the one thing that's really terrible about this, not that I'm a big fan of Eric Rowan and his big Charlotte's Web spider, but how much clearer can you get that this guy is just dead in the water? They had Drew destroy his gimmick. They gave him this box with the burlap sack, and they gave you all this mystery, and he was biting people, it was spitting blood, it was doing all this shit. It ended up being a toy spider. And you know what? They squashed that shit flat. And so is Eric Rowan. Where does he go from here? What good is he? What good was the match we had to see with him and Drew? Sure, it gives Drew a win, it gives him some momentum, but nobody gives two shits about Eric Rowan. So beating him is inevitable. Beating him is predictable. And pretty much just a waste of time. Just as much of a waste of time as having to see Bobby Lashley, the almighty milk dud, once again this evening. He's been missing in action, and all of a sudden he's showing back up on Monday Night Raw. He's showing up without Lana, thank God, and he's squashing Zack Ryder. For what reason? For what reason does he have to beat Zack Ryder? Was there anybody in the arena or anybody anywhere around the world that thought that Zack Ryder was going to have a chance against Bobby Lashley? Are you kidding me with these kind of bookings? The best part about this thing is that Lana wasn't there. We didn't have to hear Lana speak. We didn't have to see Lana's face because Lana's off filming a movie. And I don't understand whoever it is that's directing this new movie or that has cast this new movie that I believe's got Bruce Willis in it and it's called Cosmic some shit. I don't even care enough to know the name. Who casts this girl? How do you look at her and say, you know what? She's perfect for this role. She can't even play herself on television. She's terrible at being herself. I don't understand. What, did they look at all of this tape? Maybe they need a whiny, needy person that just fumbles their lines and looks like a complete goofball? Maybe that's the part. Maybe she'll fit it. I don't understand it. I'm a Hollywood director. I'm certainly not casting Lana based off of what I've seen of WWE TV. I know you would agree with me there. But at least we didn't have to see her tonight. So we can give that, some props. Thank God we didn't have to see Lana. But we seen Bobby Lashley pretty much do absolutely nothing. He pretty much could have came out, waved to the crowd, hey, look at me, I'm a milk dud, and then go to the back. And it would have been just as effective as beating Zack Ryder on TV tonight. A guy that was squashed just 24 hours ago with his Long Island running buddy, Kurt Hawkins, by the Viking Raider Warrior Raider Raiders in a matchup between two babyface tag teams that nobody gave a shit about that was relegated to the pre-show. This guy is just a perennial loser. He's there to lose, and I feel bad for Zack Ryder. This guy's been there over 10 years. He's been suffering, sucking down all of that WWE bullshit. Suffering? What kind of a word is that, suffering? He's been sucking down all of this shit for all of these years, and this guy's got one moment to cling to. One. That Intercontinental Championship win. One moment. In 10 years. The rest of the time, he's been a loser. Not worth anything. There were so many more moments on this night just like this. Like the, hey, look at me, I'm a clown, 24/7 avocado-colored championship belt. Ridiculous Moss. Beating Cedric Alexander. Not just beating him. Not just beating him, no. But squashing Cedric Alexander. And this coming just 7 days after he squashed Ricochet, who's now wrestling on Main Event. That's right, Ricochet has been moved not to the Main Event, to Main Event the show on the WWE Network, which is where the jobbers get to play. Unbelievable. And if you don't think that deserves a poop hammer, then you don't know this show very well. How could they do that to a guy like Cedric Alexander, you might ask? Well, did they ever really give a damn about Cedric Alexander? They did the same thing to Cedric that they did to Ricochet, that they're going to do to countless other guys coming up from NXT that are going to get the big push. It happened to Humberto Dr. Dimples. We didn't have to see him tonight, but we did have to see some Latino on Latino violence, man. We got to see Rey Mysterio versus Angel Garza. And Angel Garza's just coming around. He's trying to make his name. He's done nothing but wrestle Humberto So they give him Rey Mysterio, because God forbid he wrestles somebody that's not a Latin American or a Latino. And we get the same old shit. Just another lucha-inspired matchup. Rey Mysterio beats the young guy. And I don't really know how I feel about that so much. I mean, I guess it makes sense because Rey Mysterio is a veteran. You know, Garza hasn't really done all that much. And maybe this is going to lead to a bigger program down the line, which I wouldn't say no to, really, if they book it with some meaning. Rey Mysterio, let's just sidebar on Rey Mysterio for a second. Listen, Tiny Dad used to be one of the best dressed guys. His outfits always were friggin' cool. He used to do superhero themes. Came out as Daredevil. Used to come out in Joker-inspired gear. Used to do the whole superhero thing. He ran the gamut of all of them. He's been from Spider-Man all the way to anybody you can imagine. Now he's come back and he's got like this Red Rooster thing going on with his masks and he's got feathers and whatever. But what was going on with that outfit tonight? And it's not just about, wearing pink. I wear pink. Men can wear pink. Bret the Hitman Hart wore pink. But what was that outfit, Ray? Come on. You gotta step up your game there, bro. Was it a decent match? Sure. But I'm tired of seeing these guys. It's always one of the four. It's either Andrade versus Rey, Andrade versus Humberto, Angel versus Humberto, Angel versus Rey, or a mixture of the four. And I'm just tired of it. Tired of it. Let them all form together. Why not turn Rey Mysterio fucking heel? Make him lead the entire group. He could speak perfect English. You have Zelina Vega as a side manager. And you know what? You have Humberto, and you have Garza, and you have Andrade, and Rey Mysterio. Do it. At least it'll be different. And then you can bring up the giant baby son to be with Tiny Dad in this new Latino world order, and he maybe could get over. Why not? That's what you call creativity. That's what you call shaking things up and doing things differently. Not doing the same segment, just mixing and matching your pieces each and every week. A whole bunch of nonsense continues with the women's tag team division, or the lack thereof, which is what happens, or what leads to what happens tonight. Natalya and Liv Morgan. Natalya and Liv Morgan being randomly teamed together to fight the champions. 24 hours after 3 of the 4 women in the ring were involved in a elimination chamber match. Not a good one, but they were involved. And one little side note, once again, we got a sidebar on Natalya for a second. Natalya, we're hard on Natalya. Nobody wants to see her that much anymore. She's been around so long. She's just the typical veteran. She's going to hit the ring and take that role, and nobody wants to see her all that much anymore. However, I have to give my respect to Natalya, because last night in the chamber, she got her ass kicked. Out of everybody in that chamber, Natalya got it the worst. Not just because Shayna Baszler smashed her to death with a door, but because Sarah Logan almost took her face clean off of her body with a botched body splash off of the pod. And she was just all over the place, getting destroyed and getting hit by these girls that are not hitting things correctly, for lack of a better way to put it. And for her to be out there tonight at all is just... It wasn't necessary. She could have said, no, there are other girls back there, I guess, somewhere. Maybe if you can pull them out of catering. But the match tonight on Raw, the tag team match, completely unnecessary. It was even more unnecessary the way they started this thing. I don't understand. I just don't understand why they have Asuka and Kairi coming out doing all this jibber-jabber. We don't know what they're saying. If you don't speak Japanese, you have no idea what's happening. And you know what? If you do speak Japanese, you probably still don't know what's happening, because they're pretty much just making noises. I'm not even sure that those are actual words. lot of times, yeah, and I'm not making fun. I'm not trying to say words. Those are the sounds that they are making. And giggling like some anime manga girl. Like, what? Are we caricatures of ourselves now? Is it borderline, what they're doing with them? I don't know. I don't get it. And I don't get why you had to waste a solid 5 minutes of television time watching them ramble on and on and on and say nothing. If ever there was a team that needed a manager, it was definitely them. And Paige didn't really make much sense, but at least you would have understood what she said most of the time. She does speak English, and it might sound a little funny to some of you. You could still figure out what Paige is trying to say. Unless you're a complete idiot. I know you're not an idiot because you're watching this show. But you know who else is a complete idiot last week was Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch came out dressed up like a clown, looking like a fool, not taking anything seriously at all. So now apparently what she saw last night, she watched Shayna Baszler traipsing around the ring doing nothing, putting her hands out like she's an angel, just walking around laughing after she choked out 3 scrubs and then Natalya. This was impressive enough to make Becky Lynch be like, the fun and games are over. No more time for joking. Being bitten in the back of the neck. After that happens to you, you're ready to be joking around now, right? That's what you want to do. It's time to joke around. I'm going to make an ass out of myself. I'm going to pretend nothing bothers me. I'm going to pretend I'm infallible. But now, she had that match at the Chamber. Now it's time. She was part of the worst Elimination Chamber match ever. Now it's time for the joking to end. Get out of here with that. And then you have Shayna Baszler coming in on the Titantron. She's got something to say to the champ, to the man. And what do you think she ended it with? Oh, the B word. Whoa, Shayna said bitch on Raw. Things must really be getting serious now. They botched this big time. And they did it all for Charlotte Flair. Shayna Baszler should have won the Royal Rumble, immediately sending her to WrestleMania. Everything else that they've come up with, everything else that they've done and put in front of our faces is nonsense. Simple, utter nonsense. So it's taking all the wind out of any of us that were actually excited for this. And now we're just pretty much waiting to see what happens. There's a very good possibility that Becky Lynch beats Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania. They think it means more now because Becky Lynch mentioned Ronda Rousey. Oh, we mentioned Ronda Rousey. We're getting serious now. The only times we got serious on this night was when AJ Styles brought his beautiful hair to the ring and then went on a rampage on the mic that I definitely was not prepared for. Let's pull up these because I want to say everything he said as accurately as possible. AJ Styles is pissed off. Obviously, The Undertaker has interfered in his life now 2 times. He stopped him from winning that ridiculous hunk of junk that was up for grabs in the gauntlet match in Saudi Arabia. And now he cost him a match last night at the Elimination Chamber. So AJ now has a problem with The Undertaker, and he is the one now on the hunt for the dead man and wants to take him on at WrestleMania. And he laid down the challenge, and he laid it down in a hell of a way. He took a lot of shots at The Undertaker. He said that he remembers seeing The Undertaker get beat by Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 3 years ago before taking off the hat and the gloves and leaving him in the ring and then walking up the ramp and riding off into the sunset with his hand raised high. He said it was a beautiful moment. It wasn't, but AJ Styles says it was a beautiful moment, a powerful moment, an angering moment from what I'm remembering. And he ruined it by coming back. He said Undertaker should have stayed gone, probably should have done that when Brock Lesnar ended the streak the first time, but whatever. He then went on to do something that nobody in the history of wrestling has ever done. He says 10 or 15 years ago, he might have been worried about calling out The Undertaker, but now he's just a broken down old man named Mark Calloway, and he name-dropped The Undertaker's actual real-life name. And he then went on to talk shit about The Undertaker's wife, Michelle McCool. AJ Styles went on to say Taker should have stayed retired 10 years ago. He's not sure why Undertaker keeps coming back, but he has an idea. And he blamed his wife. He said, it's probably your wife, Michelle McCool. Probably insinuating the fact that she's got expensive taste. She likes to spend the dead man's moolah and keeps him coming back for more of that sweet Saudi money. That's what I think he was implying. And then he went off to tell the crowd, oh, by the way, if you didn't know, Michelle McCool and The Undertaker are married, which I think is pretty much common knowledge at this point, especially since The Undertaker is now on social media. He said that they have a great family, but Michelle McCool is playing him like a fiddle and was the most conniving person he's ever met. He said his wife is going to end up running The Undertaker into the ground. And you know what? AJ Styles says, I'm going to help her out. And I'm going to make sure you die in that ring at WrestleMania. I'm going to take The Undertaker's soul at WrestleMania. I'm going to do exactly what his wife wants me to do at WrestleMania. He then said he's got nothing to lose because AJ Styles said Undertaker's got nothing to lose because he's already lost his pride, his dignity, and his mystique. He's not wrong. Styles said he would literally put the nail in The Undertaker's coffin and challenged him to the match at WrestleMania. This was intense. This was great. This was a complete turnaround from him flip-flopping all over himself in his promo last night at the Chamber. This was very intense. It skirts the lines of reality, and this just might be what this feud needs to make people interested in it for WrestleMania. Because as we've said on this channel many times, a match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania now means nothing. It's not about the streak. He has been beaten twice at WrestleMania at this point. And what does it matter? What does it mean? Well, if you give the match personal stakes, you make AJ Styles break the fourth wall a little bit. You do something historic, like drop his real name. You bring his wife into the mix. You start calling him out. You're questioning his manhood. You're questioning his dignity. As many people in the world are when it comes to The Undertaker and the way he can perform in the ring. This is better. This is infinitely better. I'm glad they're not going down the route of a OC versus Undertaker and Friends match. I didn't want to see that. So I'm a little bit more excited. I would like to see where it goes before I really go all in on being pumped up about this matchup that I really didn't give a shit about last week. Phenom versus the Phenomenal One. It sounds like, it has the makings of something special, and on paper it looks great. But we got to make it mean something, and the reason why I'm kind of holding back is because they've already announced the next segment in the line for this storyline, and it's a contract signing. We're not going to come back next week on the Stone Cold edition of Monday Night Raw on March the 16th and address AJ Styles. The Undertaker's not going to come out and accept the challenge. He's not going to, give a rebuttal of any sort. We're just going right to the contract signing. I guess The Undertaker had Vinnie Mac on speed dial and was like, you know what, just book the match versus this kid, he'll rest in peace. And Vince was like, oh, you got it, Mark. And then he was like, don't call me that. So, something a little bit positive. And honestly, I feel like everything that was said and everything that they did here may have been better suited if they gave it to Alistair Black to do. Imagine this was all Alistair calling out the dead man. So similar in their presentations. You know, like, maybe that would have given it a little bit more oomph. And I know that AJ is like the Shawn Michaels of his generation in the ring, but... And I'm completely confident that AJ will give The Undertaker a great match at WrestleMania. But when you want to talk about impact, no pun intended, I think Alistair Black's the bigger impact. I think it would be like a handoff of the darkness, like something like that. We could have made it a little bit more interesting. It would have been more intriguing just based off of the names of the two guys alone. Because I truly don't think AJ Styles ever really got over that much with the modern WWE crowd. There are many of us who know him from his previous endeavors and are in love with the man since then. Him versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania is a great match. We'll have to hope for the best, I guess. Ridiculous Moss beat Cedric Alexander in 2 minutes, you guys. Fantastic. Who gives a shit? One of the best moments of the night. MVP. I'm sorry, I had to trick you guys. I had to lead it in this way. One of the best moments of the night was the Edge and Randy Orton encounter, of course. But they ruined it with the involvement of MVP. And before we even get started on talking Edge and Randy Orton, I have to address MVP. The guy came out, right? And I had no idea this was going to be the lead-in to Edge. Because why would it be? And MVP starts talking about he's here to give his knowledge now. He's won championships. And he wants to start a stable. And I'm like, okay, this is something that I said they should do here on this show. I'm into it. They give him the right couple of guys. He's got a good mouthpiece on him. Could be something good. But then he says he wants to give his stable a strong foundation, which of course is what any manager worth his salt would want to do. So the first talent you get is going to be the talent you build around, and he's going to be the solid foundation of your whole entire group. And he says he wants his foundation to be Edge. Now, at first I thought he said, or he was trying to say somebody like Edge, like he would want his guy to be somebody like Edge. But he meant literally Edge. And he's promising to bring Edge back to his days of glory. And I'm like, he didn't need MVP the first time. He certainly wouldn't need MVP the second time. This is very nonsensical and does not make any sense to have him involved here whatsoever. So what was the point? They needed somebody out there to eat a spear. So they gave that role to MVP. And I'm saying to you guys, just to be fair to the poor guy, if they would have done this and gave him a stable or gave him a superstar to build up, somebody new, maybe Apollo Crews, or maybe he could be the guy who brings in a Keith Lee or somebody from NXT to start doing some damage. I'm thinking there's potential there. I'm thinking that would be great. But no, instead the WWE has to remind us that MVP is nothing more than a novelty joke from the early 2000s. And we could move on and get serious. Because once Edge speared MVP for mentioning Beth Phoenix, a lot of talking about a lot of people's wives tonight on the show. It was over for MVP. He ate the spear and that was it. Randy Orton tried to sneak attack Edge as he took down MVP. So for a second I'm like, well, did Randy Orton hire MVP? Did he get him to go out there as bait so that he could try to RKO him again out of nowhere? Well, we won't know that. And I doubt that was the plan. But Randy Orton tries and fails to hit an RKO on Edge tonight. And instead, Edge returns the favor and plants an RKO on the Viper. Not the prettiest RKO, but an RKO nonetheless. It was effective enough, and that's all it needed to be. Edge only wanted to get his hands on Randy Orton, and he was able to do that. Everything about this was great. This is the only match leading towards WrestleMania that anybody's truly got those WrestleMania, jitters about. It feels bigger than everything else that's happening. And like I said, it's really only just begun. We got a couple of more weeks left for them to really turn up the heat on this thing and bring it to a full boil before it explodes at WrestleMania, which is in what is going to be probably the most intense match of the night. I guarantee it. After this, they talked about the contract signing for Taker and AJ Styles. Like, we didn't even get to the end of the show. And they're like, yeah, we're going to have the contract signing next week. It's going to be official. But when did The Undertaker answer this question? Logic. Non-existent. Before we go back towards the end of the show, we had a confrontation between Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, by the way, and I didn't give a shit. I didn't. I'm actually terrified of this match because I don't want them to give the win to Charlotte, which I'm almost 100% sure they will at WrestleMania, stifling the growth and the momentum of Rhea Ripley. And she might not be your cup of tea, but she is the NXT Women's Champion, and NXT should be protected. I'm sorry. It should be. They should be having nothing to do with the main roster. They should live on their own island and stay there and continue to be the best thing about WWE programming. But once you start intermingling and mixing in like this, you run the risk of them ruining everything. Charlotte Flair does nothing for NXT as its champion. So I don't care. I don't care that Charlotte Flair wooed at Rhea Ripley. I don't care that Rhea Ripley knocked her out with a right hand. I don't care. I should care. But they didn't do a good job at making me care. Alistair Black sets up to fight Seth Rollins. In less than 10 minutes, let's be generous, in less than 10 minutes, Alistair Black gets the win over Seth Rollins because Buddy Murphy interferes. Murphy got in the way, and this became an all-out brawl. The Disciples came out, the Authors of Pain came out, started beating down Alistair Black. Then the Viking Raiders came out. And in my head, I'm going, okay, any minute now, Kevin Owens' music is going to hit. He's going to return to the arena since he's been gone all night. The attack on Kevin Owens that happened at the beginning of the show or earlier in the evening, as they would have us believe before the show went on the air. He should have came and had his triumphant return. But instead, we get the Street Profits coming out. And now I'm like, well, now it's a 5-on-4. That doesn't really make much sense. But then Alistair Black evaporated into nothingness. Pulled off one of his magic tricks. Headed for the high ground, and we had an 8-man tag team matchup. Seth Rollins, Murphy, and the AOP defeated the tag team champions, of course, and the Viking Raiders in a match that went almost 25 minutes. And I don't even know what that says about this show. This show should have ended with Edge in hot pursuit of Randy Orton. And when they told him that Randy Orton was already gone from the building, the show should have faded to black and we would have gave a shit about next week. But now that you did this, what do we care about? What did the main event do? You know, it brought me down. It brought me down just as much as the ridiculous Moss match brought me down. They wanted to put that match up after AJ Styles' promo that got me all hyped up, but then they showed me Riddick Moss beating Cedric in 2 minutes, and I'm like, oh, right, I'm watching WWE here. Awful. Awful stuff. But a couple of really good moments. So, overall, I mean, not the worst episode of Monday Night Raw ever. It is still far better. We did have Kevin Owens finally come out after the match, attack Seth Rollins, gave everybody a stunner, and then Seth Rollins got the advantage, gave Kevin Owens a curb stomp, and then a second one. And leading into Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins is not exciting to me. I would rather them change gears and go back to the Seth versus Alistair Black. Leave Joe and Owens together as a team. Do them versus the Authors of Piss versus Seth and Buddy, and who cares? Because I really don't have any reason to care about any of this. They ruined it already. Kevin Owens was the hot hand here, but they didn't play it. They're not playing it the way they should be anyway. They're keeping things very minimal. Lots of popcorn jokes. Did you see Seth Rollins walking through the crowd with the popcorn tin and people touching his popcorn? He should have threw the popcorn out. Doesn't he know what's happening all over the world right now? Ridiculous. But that's it. I don't even want to talk about it much anymore. This show was not that bad, but it was not that eventful. Everything other than Edge and Randy and the AJ Styles promo. Just another completely unnecessary, useless episode of Monday Night Raw. If you want to see the Elimination Chamber review, which is what busted the blood vessel in this eye, in case you haven't noticed yet, yeah, I popped the blood vessel. That show made me so mad. So go check it out right now. If you missed it, it's live on the channel. We also took down the super shit down. We took our shots at AEW Revolution and everything else that weekly primetime wrestling TV likes to throw at us, and I keep everything honest, and the hammer comes down equally on any 3-letter promotion that wants to come our way, or 4 letters, or no matter how many letters are in front of your wrestling organization. We'll tell you what's wrong with it and how you can fix it. That's why we have the hammer. It's not just for damaging, it's also for repair. But I don't think they're taking notes. Thank you guys all so very much for being with me for another edition of the Monday Night Raw Review. I hope you had a great time here with me tonight. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team. Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you Sledgeheads. This is the opportunity for you right now, if you are not already one of the 2,000 plus that know that Sledgehammer TV is the place to be, then hit that subscribe button right now. Make sure your notifications are all turned on so that you don't miss any awesome wrestling review show or any wrestling related show that we put up on this tube box that you love to call the YouTube. And then share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world. Invite them to become part of the coolest, newest faction of wrestling fans in the entire YouTube wrestling community. And then, if I made you laugh, if I made you cry, if I made you understand why this show has its issues and has its problems, and there are lots of things wrong with it, then hit that thumbs up right now. Let me know that you had a good time here tonight. Leave all your comments down in the comments section below. What did you think about this evening's events? What was your favorite segment of the night? Because I already probably know it's going to be the same as mine. Who are you giving the poop hammer to? I'll give the poop hammer to every segment outside of the 2 that I liked, as you already know. And I hope you enjoyed yourself. And I want to thank you all once again for being with me as we are in the middle of year number 4. SummerSlam is going to bring it to a close and enter us into our 5th year. And I love each and every one of you guys that have been here with me along the way. Especially you guys that are still here at the 39-minute mark on these videos, that watch me all the way through, that appreciate the jokes, that get the humor, and that understand that I'm the baddest man in this gig. You might think other people are better, but there is nobody that'll make you laugh more than me. And when it comes to that, I'm the best. And I'm tooting my own horn right now because I'm fucking overtired. I've been watching too much wrestling, and I need to go to sleep so that we can do this all again on Wednesday. But that'll be a happier note when we talk about AEW. That, my friends, is going to do it, and we are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Let's go to sleep.